She was an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
Energetic, full of life, full of promise. You know, an honorable war veteran, a decorated war veteran, a private small business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lovely daughter, a lovely person, a wife, a sister, an aunt.
Yeah. Could you tell me more about, so like last year when like you heard the news about what happened here, like what was running through your head?
Probably denial.
You know,
That's
yeah, at
usually the
first I
first
was
stage.
thinking, she's injured, it was a rubber bullet, it's not that bad, let's go to D.C. So her husband and I were trying to get information and make plans to come to D.C. and then we heard that she had passed away. So then it became about bringing her home. So what was running through my mind? Anger, sadness, anguish, disbelief, this can't be happening, all those things.
What are you hoping like to accomplish today in particular?
Just to bring to light the fact that there are a bunch of lies told behind January 6th, and this country needs to wake up before we become a communist country. You know, we do have the right to protest. The protest is not punishable by public execution.
Right.
You know, the Capitol Police should not be allowed to operate with impunity. They should be under investigation like any other law enforcement agency in this country. You know, and I'm in full support of law enforcement. I'm not a defund the police kind of person. We need the police. I appreciate the police, but the Capitol Police are not the police. They're an arm of Congress.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
And they're not subject to any type of
FOIA
review.
They're not subject to FOIA.
I mean,
they're
why?
They're not subject to transparency. They're not subject to FOIA. They operate
Why?
with impunity.
Yeah. Why is that?
Why is that? That's a good frickin' question. Why is that? Why aren't they subject to FOIA?
and what are these flyers? Could you tell me a little bit more about them?
Flyers. This was my daughter the day of the Capitol. Ashli Babbitt, murdered. Roseanne Boylan, murdered. Kevin Greason, murdered. Victoria White, beat within an inch of her life. Political prisoners being persecuted and held hostage in the D.C. Gulag to this day, being denied due process and rights most of them fought for. Fought for your right to be here, for my right to be here,
Yep.
as a people's house.
They fought for their First Amendment, which is exactly why you guys have a job.
Right.
Would it be okay if I took a photo of you with the flyer in front of the Capitol? Is that something you'd be comfortable with?
Take my
Okay.
photo.
Is that okay?
I would ask you if you're comfortable with that, and if you are.
If you're comfortable.
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
Here, let me hold your stuff. I want this
Hold
one.
that
oh,
one.
yeah.
Hold the big one. Yeah.
There you go. Sad. I think that's done with the others.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please be respectful. Please use this for the right reasons. For Ashley.
The truth is right. That's
Yeah.
right.
The truth around Ashley.
Probably not. We'll see.
Yeah.
Can't be any worse lies than I've already been told.
That's
Can't be any worse than the hit already.
Yeah, he is.
Right?
What have you learned in the past year? Like, how has your viewpoint of January 6th changed from Jan 6, 2021 to Jan 6, 2022?
My view of the government has changed dramatically. You know, I used to think we were a free country, and now I think there are so many secrets being hidden. And like I said before, I think this 14,000 hours of footage belongs to us. Why are there surveillance cameras if we can't see the footage? We can't see the footage because it would show
HBO
bad
can.
behavior. HBO can
can
because
see the
Nancy
footage.
Pelosi's daughter is connected.
Because they're willing to.
But they still
Show
get
it.
to pick and choose and cherry pick and show patriots in a bad light. But let's see what led up to that. I want to see what initiated that bad behavior. I want to see the Capitol Police's behavior that day. I want to see everybody's behavior that day. With surveillance, the surveillance was put up for that purpose, for us to be able to see what happened. Let's see the body cams. Let's see the surveillance footage. And I mean all of it, not just the cherry picked. Look at these people behaving badly. Why were they behaving badly? What happened? What happened at 2:00 in the afternoon to start the violence? Why the flashbangs? Why the grenades? Why the tear gas? Why Why have I seen footage of Capitol Police, 6 of them holding one man down while the other one kicks him in the head? Why have I seen footage in the tunnel of Victoria White being beaten within an inch of her life, having Capitol Police reaching over each other to hit her in the head with a baton? And that was pressed, and we had to press and press and press for that footage. And I want to see all of it. I want to see what happened. And if there was bad behavior on the part of patriots that day, we'll see that. And if there was bad behavior on the part of the Capitol Police today, that day we'll see that. And if there was bad behavior on the part of the Metropolitan Police that day, we'll see that. If there was bad behavior by Congress that day, maybe we'll see that. I absolutely know we'll see footage of Michael Byrd running around with his finger on the trigger. I know we'll see that. I know we'll see him shoot my daughter dead without so much as telling her to halt, not come in, and skipping the use of force continuing steps 1 through 6. I know we'll see that. Let's see what happened. I think that the American people have a right to see all of it.
Cops don't run around with their fingers on the trigger. It just doesn't happen. And there isn't a cop out there that can tell me different.
Or any responsible gun owner doesn't walk
Absolutely
around with
true.
their finger on the trigger.
And why has Mayor Bowser not had to answer for why Antifa, buses full of, actually they were terrorists at the time, because Trump had called their organization terrorist. So why did Mayor Bowser have her police department escort busloads of Antifa into DC? Why were they allowed to come here? Why would you let them come here when you know that there's going to be a First Amendment protest and you're so worried about what could possibly happen? Why? Why would Mayor Bowser allow Antifa to come into her city for that protest? She's never had to answer for that. People have that on video. That's a fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. We let those people come into the city, and then we watched them come to the rally here at the Capitol, get out and blend into the crowd. Why is that not an issue?
And why did USA Today just walk away? Oh, whoops. Are we
Sorry-
saying
sorry
things they're not
about that.
interested in reporting? Yeah. Whoops.
I want to know. Mayor Bowser, can you offer me an explanation? Because I saw them. Can you tell me why you let Antifa come into DC when you were so scared about patriots coming here and what would happen? What did you think terrorist groups were going to do at the Capitol that day? Give me any answer that would make sense to that. And why did they not want the National Guard here?
That's a good question.
So
too.
Antifa
Why?
could come, but the National Guard couldn't? Could it be Nancy Pelosi? Could it be Mayor Bowser that you knew that the National Guard might pick up on everything that the cops did wrong that day? I think that's the reason.
And because she couldn't control the National Guard. The National Guard would have been here to protect the people and protect the process of the day, and not, she couldn't control the
whip up
National
a
Guard.
narrative.
Not whip up a narrative. That's right.
So, I mean, hindsight is 2020, but how do you wish that the day had been handled? It sounds like you wish the National Guard had arrived before all of this began.
Actually, I wish that our government didn't attack its people in what was really the insurrection that day. The government attacked the people. That was the real insurrection. I wish that never happened. I wish we were allowed, first of all, I wish the election was never stolen, because then the Trumps would be
First
in the
and
White
foremost.
House and we would have a real president. But the election was stolen. So that day, I wish the United States people were just allowed to come here and practice their First Amendment rights and say, hey, we're not okay with you stealing the election. That's how that day should have gone. But they had other things in mind.
They had other things in
Yeah,
mind.
they wanted to stop the process, and they successfully did that. It's not hard to take an emotional crowd and stir them up. It's not hard, and people were emotional. There's no doubt about that. It doesn't take much, so they planted a few people in there to stir the crowd and create the narrative that they now have.
And with all that evidence, I just want to say this. I'm not too sure that there is a court in this country. In any other case, I would challenge anybody to look one up and find me a case where you can tamper with evidence and still submit it.
Yeah.
So if you have 14,000 hours of video, you cannot submit 2 of them. You can't submit a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there, because you've tampered with evidence. It's obstruction of justice.
They haven't released
It's
it.
witness tampering. It's all of the above. And by that alone, any other court in this country would have to dismiss cases against the people that they were charging. Yet we still have 450 people in a prison denied due process and other constitutional rights, denied the evidence that will either convict or clear them, and it's been tampered with by the government.
Right. and they can't see it because it would implicate the FBI, and it would show that the Capitol Police are culpable. You know, the FBI is culpable, and Nancy Pelosi's fingers are all over it, and
who else? We don't know.
and who else we don't know. And how many people actually were killed that day? How hard did we have to fight for this information? You know, how long did it take for this information to come out? Just how many people were beat to death that day?
There was a man shot in the head, probably by a rubber bullet, by one of the Capitol Police officers, and he was dazed and stumbling, and he fell to the ground right in front of me, and I tried to help him. He wasn't coherent.
Was this the individual who had a hole through his, like, under his lip?
No. When I tell you so many people were injured by the Capitol cops that day, I'm not exaggerating. There's way more people injured that day than they want to care to report. I saw it, okay? He got up and walked away. Now, I worked in EMS for 18 years. That man's head injury is something that I would have collared and boarded and taken him to an emergency room and had a CAT scan done and expected significant trauma. I don't know what happened to him. There was too much going on that day. But I can't believe he didn't end up in a hospital somewhere. How many other people were injured that day by those cops?
Where does your lawsuit stand against the USCP and Lieutenant
I'm
Byrd?
not going to comment on that.
No, okay. Have you been able to access any video, like, through discovery from that? Like, have they given you anything, or is it shut tight?
I just don't even know where to start with that.
Fair enough. Is there anything else that you want to add before I kind of wrap up the interview here, as you're here at the Capitol on Jan 6, 2022?
I love and miss my daughter, and I feel like this country needs to stand up for people that stood up for them. You know, my daughter, the persecuted political prisoners, people that were injured and harmed by the Capitol Police that day. Michael Byrd needs to be held accountable, and yeah, I think that Michael Byrd needs to be held accountable. He's the Barney Fife of Capitol Police.
Thank you, I appreciate it.